New tonight, this Colorado doctor sanctioned by the state for failing to monitor his patients. Some have died.
Now Call 7 investigator John Ferrugia uncovering another death. And John, the state medical board isn't taking his license?
That's right, Mike. The Colorado Medical Board has repeatedly put Stan Worley on probation, citing him after patients were neglected and mismanaged. But it's not taking his license. Now there's yet another family who has lost a mother, and her daughter is asking how many more will die before Worley's license is revoked for good.
She was in such great health, she was cleared to go on a 30-day Antarctica expedition.
80-year-old Marlene Pulitzer was active in her retirement, but her daughter, Kathleen Simonak, says while on her expedition, the boat hit rough waters, causing her to fall and fracture her pelvis and back, and she was flown home to Colorado.
Her only problem was it was too painful to walk.
After only 2 days in a local hospital, doctors referred her to the Broomfield Skilled Nursing and Rehabilitation Center.
Her only purpose for going there was physical therapy, just to get stronger.
But in just 13 days, Marlene Pulitzer went from a healthy woman on the mend to the emergency room where she had first been treated.
And the nurse actually said in the emergency room, I admitted her 2 weeks ago and I never would have recognized her.
Pulitzer's doctor at the rehab center, the person responsible for monitoring her care, was Dr. Bob Stanton Worley, known to his patients as Stan. What Kathleen Simonak did not know, and state records show, is that Dr. Stan Worley has been on probation for more than a decade. Another doctor has to monitor his practice because he has been found by the state medical board to have consistently provided substandard care to patients. I'm John Ferrugia. I'm over Channel 7. I wanted to know if you tell your patients and their families that you're on probation.
I really can't comment on that. You'll have to talk to my lawyer.
In the meantime, I had looked into this doctor and was appalled at how many complaints he's had against him, how many malpractice suits.
In fact, there are stacks of lawsuits going back years where Dr. Stan Worley is accused of negligence, malpractice, and substandard care. Some patients have died, including Frank Andrade, whose case we investigated in 2008. The Colorado Medical Board cited the case as one reason it kept Worley on probation, where he's been since 2002.
I think his license should have been taken away, not been put on probation.
Andrade's daughter, Rachel Belmudez, couldn't believe Worley is still practicing.
Dad was getting worse. He wouldn't even come and check on him.
That is the same scenario the family of Marlene Pulitzer encountered as they witnessed their mother's rapid decline in the second week of her stay.
She stopped eating, she stopped drinking, developed explosive diarrhea, which they later diagnosed as C. diff.
C. diff is an intestinal infection which the family's lawsuit claims Dr. Worley failed to treat. And Kathleen, a trained nurse, says Worley ignored her pleas to take her mother to the hospital.
I think he was very irritated that we were so frequently asking the nurses to call him.
Finally, Kathleen and her sisters called an ambulance, taking her mother to the emergency room. But it was too late. You know who Marlene Pulitzer is?
You'll have to talk to my lawyer.
That has been Worley's response for years. Even though he was put on probation in 2002, Worley was cited again for providing substandard care.
Didn't take his license. That is correct.
Marshall Smith is program director for the Colorado Medical Board.
Didn't suspend his practice. That's correct. You go back and you negotiate again. Correct.
After her mother's death, Simonak filed a complaint against the rehab facility and Worley. Records show the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment did find substandard care at the facility where Pulitzer was being treated. While the department does not cite doctors, Worley was the physician treating Pulitzer. Meanwhile, the state medical board took no public action against Worley.
I don't understand why they would not revoke his license, even before he ever treated my mother.
We have at least 8 cases in the state of Colorado where he provided substandard care. People were harmed. He still got his license. Why?
We don't have a 3 strikes and you're out rule. We don't have an 8 strikes or a 10 strikes. It's every case that is filed with the board is investigated completely by the board, and then they make a decision based on that particular case.
Do you think Dr. Worley should be practicing medicine in the state of Colorado?
I don't think Dr. Worley should be practicing medicine at all, anywhere.
Marlene Pulitzer's family has now sued both Dr. Stan Worley and the Broomfield Skilled Nursing and Rehabilitation Center. The assistant administrator from that center refused to comment about the case. Meanwhile, Marshall Smith says families and patients should always check the background of any doctor on the medical board's website. But in Worley's case, Smith would not say why this most recent complaint was rejected, nor whether there would be further investigation into Worley's pattern of complaints. And meanwhile, right now, Dr. Stan Worley is legally practicing in the state of Colorado.
That's a jaw dropper. All right, thanks very much. If you have a story idea for the investigators, call 303-832-7777 or send an email to call7@thedenverchannel.com.